Dear audience, Assalamu alaikum. A gracious welcome to you all on the quarterfinals of the very first inter-school English debate competition organized by Bangladesh Television Chattogram Center. When your mind is full of assumptions, beliefs, and conclusions, it has no penetration. It only repeats past information and impressions. To change this mindset, we need to make proper use of speech, arguments, discussions, and also debate. Debate is a formal academic competition in which students argue both sides of a given topic and they both try to come to a conclusion. As much as the aim of a debate is to gain a victory, it is also meant for progress. Progress of the essential skills of a student, such as critical thinking, communication, collaboration, articulation, and so much more. Dear audience, I really hope the debaters here today have mastered these skills and have come prepared to support their teammates with utmost dignity and grace. On that very good note, I, your host Prapanti Chakrabarti, would love to invite you all to come along and enjoy our very lovely debate competition participated by two competed teams. Today, the selected motion for the debate competition is: government should offer payments to people so that they move out of cities and settle on the rural areas. The team for the motion belongs to Cantonment English School and College, Chattogram. The team against the motion belongs to Chattogram Cantonment Public College. Speakers for the motion are Fatima Binte Morshed, Aranyo Rishabdhar, Shashwat Bishwash. Speakers against the motion are Mohammed Safwan bin Hussain Chaudhary, Fairuz Tafanum, Abrar Shohid. The honorable adjudicators of today's session are Mohammed Abdus Samad, former president, Chittagong University Debating Society; Abdullah Muhammad Shukrana, president, Bangladesh Debate Federation; Tawhid Hussain, former president, East West University Debate Club and news presenter, Jamuna Television. The topics on which our honorable judges are going to assign marks in the constructive round are Presentation 5, Language and Pronunciation 10, Presentation of Theory and Information 15, Argumentation and Rebuttal 10. The topics on which our honorable judges are going to assign marks in the rebuttal round are Presentation 5, Language and Pronunciation 5, Argumentation and Rebuttal 20. Dear viewers, now I would love to introduce you to our honorable moderator who would be conducting the entire competition and announce the results at the end. The honorable moderator of today's session is Professor Dr. Shukanta Bhattacharya, Chairman, Department of English, Chittagong University. Now, I would most humbly like to request you, sir, to come up on the stage and take your seat. Before we start the debate, I would like to inform you about the order and time allocation of each debater. Each debater will get 5 minutes to present his or her speech. An alarming bell will ring on the 4th minute, and the final bell will ring on the 5th minute. In the rebuttal round, both the team leaders will get 2 minutes each. Alarming bell will ring on 1.5 minutes, and the final bell will ring on the 2nd minute. Dear audience, before getting on to the competition, I would like to give you a friendly reminder that from now onwards, you can watch all these episodes not only on your television set, but also on Facebook and YouTube. Tune in on facebook.com/btvchattogram and www.youtube.com/@btvchattogram. Now, I would like to request our honorable moderator to preside over the competition and start the debate.
I would like to invite you all to first inter-school English debate competition 2023, and we are in quarter round phase, and today's topic of the debate is government should offer payments to people so that they move out of cities and settle in the rural areas. Now I would like to request the first speaker from Cantonment English School and College, Chattogram, Fatima Binte Morshed, to speak for the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, and respected judges for providing me the floor to speak in today's debate. The motion in today's debate is government should offer payments to people so that they move out of cities and settle in the rural areas. And for logical reasons, me and my team is standing in favor of this motion. Now, let us come to the definition. By government, we mean the government of Bangladesh, and by offering payments, we will follow 4 steps. Firstly, government will provide sufficient amount of money on the basis of the number of family members, like they do in Japan, New Zealand, etc. And for this debate, we believe it can be more than 3 lakhs taka. Secondly, at least one earner in each household must either set up a business in their new local or take up employment in a small or medium-sized enterprises there. Thirdly, government will provide easier loan option for business purposes after reallocation. Government will also provide training if required. Fourthly, if the family wants to return to cities within the next 10 years, they have to give the whole money back to the government after the reallocation. The fund for this project will come from the national budget. Now, we believe the primary taker of this offering will be underprivileged, and underprivileged people, also a very good number of people from middle-class family, will take this offer. We believe that there will be also some people who are bored and fed up with the city life, and they will also want to move out to cities, villages, rural areas. From the government side, we will prove to you that cities are already at maximum capacity, and the most efficient way to resolve this problem is offering people this payment. As the first speaker, I will provide the arguments for the motion and explain them. My second speaker will come up and elaborate the arguments, and my third speaker will give the sum up and show the comparatives. Now, coming to the arguments, we have set 3 arguments for this debate. Firstly, urban areas are already at maximum population, and reallocation is the only way to solve this problem. Secondly, while offering payment would accelerate the process of decentralization and create economic activities in rural areas, which is not possible by any other means. Thirdly, we can gain long-term benefits both in rural and urban areas. Now, Honorable Moderator, coming to the point why reallocation is the only way to solve the problem of overly populated urban areas. Honorable Moderator, we know that in our countries, our urban cities are extremely populated, and a study by UNFPA states that urban population has been increasing by progressively larger numbers in 5 period, and it has increased by 1.9 million a year between 2015 to 2020. Source, The Daily Star. So the problems that are occurring, that we are failing to provide them with job opportunities, but most importantly, not everyone has got proper accommodation, and these problems are again leading to 3 other problems there. Firstly, people are being forced to live in slums due to lack of jobs, and also crime rate is increasing in cities. Secondly, pollution like air, sound, and water pollution are increasing at an alarming rate due to overconsumption and waste mismanagement. Thirdly, problems like traffic jam, load shedding are also getting severe, and all these problems directly or indirectly is costing billions to the cities and the country's economy. That is why we believe reallocating these excess people is the only way to solve this problem. Now, Honorable Moderator, why do we believe offering payments will create economic activities in rural areas? Honorable Moderator, over 38.95% of people migrated from rural to urban areas in 2022. Source, The Prathamalo. So what happened is that oftentimes they live in cities expecting that it will create more jobs for them. And this mentality is not only destroying them, but also their family, because when they come to cities, they're not getting proper education, they do not have access to proper healthcare, and they don't have enough money to afford their homes, and most importantly, they cannot start a new business on their own. And the moment in time the government will offer them payments, chances are high that they would reallocate themselves out from towns and will be able to meet their basic needs. And thirdly, we believe that we can gain long-term benefits both in rural and urban areas. Because firstly, we believe if we move these people to rural areas, more jobs will be created, and most importantly, the tendency of rural people to move to cities will change, and big companies will be eager to set their manufacturing plants in rural areas because there will be more more people in rural areas than ever. At the same time, we believe agriculture will flourish as people will engage themselves in agricultural activities. In this way, urban areas will be less populated, less polluted. Crime rate will be decreasing in in rural areas, and most importantly, we can save billions and we can save our country's economy. And our opposition might come up and ask, where is the assurity that they will use this payment effectively? Well, firstly, we believe it is highly unlikely for most of the people to misuse this, because this will be the first time they will have the payment. They will have the money to afford their families and themselves, and they won't let this opportunity to go in vain. And for all this logical reason, we believe the government should offer payments to people so that they move out of cities and settle in the rural areas. Thank you, Honorable Moderator. Thank you, everyone.
Now, I would like to ask Mohammad Safwan bin Hussain Chaudhry to speak against the motion.
Cities where you have your housing, where you have your emotions attached, where you have bondings. Cities that you have built by your own hands, by the sweat, by the blood. Would you ever go back to some random island just for the money that will end up within some months? I guess the answer is no. Thank you, moderator, for giving me the floor. Honorable moderator, going for the basic rebuttal. First, they have talked about the national budget that they will allocate, how they will fund people. I will get into my speech how the national budget really looks like as we gonna get this particular context from the government side. Secondly, they have talked about how relocation is the only way for the development of country. We don't have any problem with that. But what we are trying to do is give a better alternative that is more feasible, that is more viable, and that is more sustainable. On that particular perspective, we believe that our alternative would be much more heavier on our side of the world. Secondly, they have talked about agricultural development. No one thing, we do have those farms, we do have those particular agricultural lands, but why are still people coming back to cities in the very first place? Why are they not working on those particular fields, and why are these fields still out there and without any work on the moderator? Now, going to our point. Understand how we were looking forward to a clear context, but I have to bring it up in the very first place, and let's just broaden our minds on this aspect. Understand what is the present status quo of Bangladesh. Number one, Bangladesh has already done a lot of centralized development in the very first place. Understand one thing, that places like Dhaka, it has railway stations, it has better transportation, it has better infrastructures. On that particular perspective, we cannot pay people to get in those rural areas where there is no infrastructural development, where there is no much of the transportational development. On that particular perspective, we believe it won't be justified for us to bring those people rural areas to those particular places where there is no development in the very first place, on the moderator. Secondly, no one thing how Bangladesh has been pacing fast in urbanization. They have also talked about how 1.9 million people are migrating from rural areas to urban areas. I get it in the very first place. But no one thing, according to World Bank, urban population is 68 million in 2022, which was a 3.07% rise from 2021. On that particular perspective, we believe that it will be a burden for the government to provide or allocate money and reach every single one of them in the very first place, on the moderator. And third context of the Bangladesh is very, very crucial and to be noted at a very primal level. It is very miserable to talk about how economic degradation has been having in the various places. How Bangladesh had faced economic crisis, how the dollar crisis was a very major factor in the very first place. Understand, in May 2022, the reserve was $42.20 billion. In July 23, it was $29.77, a declination of 29.45% on the moderator. On that particular perspective, as we have economic degradation, we believe we need a solution that is more not of an economic burden for us, which is more viable, which is more sustainable, on the moderator. And we have the incentive like them to relocate those people in other areas, but with a better alternative, not by paying them in the first place, on the moderator. We will show you with two perspectives. Number one, the perspective of government. Number two, the perspective of people. We will show you why you cannot provide money to the people as an incentive for the people to move out in those rural areas, on the monitor. As the first speaker will explain the government lens, my second speaker will explain the people's lens, and my third speaker will sum up the whole debate and give a better alternative. Honorable Moderator, talking about the government, let's understand why it is not feasible or it is not economically beneficial for the government to implement this policy in the very first place. Understand, it is an economic burden. And when I talk about economic burden, let's just take back to the context I have already mentioned in the first place. Understand, in that particular context where you have economic degradation, it is not feasible for you to fund people in the first place. Why? There is a huge number of people. These 68 million people in the urban areas are much having an impact on those particular countries, on moderator. And that is to say, even if we give them 20,000 taka, which is the bare minimum, this total revenue stands at $20 billion. And they have talked about how we will fund them from the national budget. Understand how $20 billion is very unfortunately half of the revenue that you have already on moderator. Are you really willing to give half of your revenue to the people just to relocate themselves in those rural areas? It is not wise enough, on moderator. Understand how even if you fund them, there is no sustainability in the first place. Why? Because people might come back to your own cities. Understand, when I talk about there is no infrastructural development, understand how the 38% of rural roads are not paved compared to those 86% of urban roads on monitor. Understand how there is no better hospitals, where there is no better educational institutions. On that particular perspective, we believe those rural area people will tend to come back to urban areas and create the same problem on monitor. Rather, what are we going to do? We are going to implement a better alternative, that is indiscriminate development in rural areas and create environment for infrastructural development, that is to say create an economic community on a monitor. And we believe this alternative will be a better choice for us, not paying people to get into those rural areas. Thank you, Honorable Moderator. Thank you, everyone.
Now I would like to ask Arun Rishabh Dhar to speak for the motion, and he is from Cantonment English School and College, Chattogram.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, for giving the floor in today's debate. Honorable Moderator, at first, my first speaker has already stated that the cities are now at their max capacity, and this extra population is creating more various types of pollutions and social problems in the country. And today, I would show you why offering payment to relocate is the most efficient way. Understand, if you give them the skill training, and there is not much job vacancy in the cities, as there is already, as our country is going through the problem of the overpopulation, and the cities of the density of the cities are now being gradually increased day by day. And Honorable Moderator, most importantly, these people from the city would not like to move to the villages at first, because they first of all came here to the cities for a good job, but due to overpopulation problems and due to the job vacancy less problems, they are now not getting the proper jobs they were required to get. So now they will try to get back to the rural areas or different types of places for a good management. And we can also see that in Japan and China, more educated peoples are also staying in the rural areas and doing different types of jobs, which can also provide them the economic and the proper GDP supplements. And further, the semi-skilled people who are stuck in the doing of the monotonous job and getting minimum wages. And we believe that today the people will only move out if they are getting the proper economic conditions and the proper economic incentives, and offering them is the money is the best way to relocate the people from the city to the rural area. And Honorable Moderator, understand why they never had the good houses, besides they lived in the daily life in the financial insecurity. And today that money and that good job can only give them the assurity and of that insecurity, and they can live in a better life with that financial security. And so here money can give them the assurity that the cities are not being failed due to that overpopulation problem, and today the relocation will help them in that such way. And they can also set up their own business if they want to, and besides they can also do different kinds of jobs by staying in the rural area, as different types of people are doing in the Japan or the China. They are coming to the cities and doing the job and again going back to the villages. And besides, most importantly, they will have their money saved in the banks, which will give them their financial security. And this is the most unique opportunity for these people, as they're in their life they had never had a good opportunity to live like that, and thus has the possibility of solving every problem they had in their life. And the impact of this mechanism has two folds, where the first fold is that it would significantly reduce the total population in the urban areas, and so management would be easier and the population will be less. Today in my opposition bench, first speaker has told about the slum areas. Honorable Moderator, the slum areas, the people who are coming from the rural areas are now living in those slum areas because they are not getting that kind of good job and they cannot have their proper financial requirements. And Honorable Moderator, now if they today go back to the rural areas, by the help of the government economic conditions, then they can lead a good life comparatively to the rural areas where they are living under the poverty line of the country. And honorable moderator, moreover, the people in the rural areas have that tendency of doing a good job which they are not getting in the urban areas nowadays. And today now government should take steps against it for relocating the people from the rural areas to the urban areas. And also we see that in Japan that the government gave money to the people to move out from Tokyo, as Tokyo is one of the most overpopulated country of the city of the world, and today they are now giving people relocations and different types of money incentives for continuing them into going back to the villages. And also we can see the same situation in New Zealand where they are giving money to the people who are moving from the Auckland city to different types of rural areas or somewhere else where the density of the country is less comparatively. And so we believe that it is also possible in Bangladesh, as there are many money reserved in the banks sitting idly, and if the government gives the money to the people, it would also create the country in a good money circulation process. And that is to say that the enough through the tax, bank savings and economic activities, the same money would come back to the government. And understand, to provide this money, you are not required to convert the dollar into the money. And so we believe that it would also not hamper our foreign reserve. And the moment in time more people would be in rural areas, the development of the rural areas will also take place first. And as people will require the basic rights such as education, hospitals, etc., within a good period or certain period of time, we can also see the developed schools, colleges, and hospitals in that rural areas too, which are now being gradually increased by the relocation of the people. And this if this relocation takes place much betterly, then the relocation will be more effective in such that way. And at the same time, private sectors will also be involved, and you would also see that private schools and the private hospitals in those localities functioning more properly. And today I would say that my opposition bench have also told about the alternative way. Can you say how long and efficient that would be in the process of our country and in the good opportunity of the country? Please prove that through the sum up. Thank you, honorable moderator. Thank you, everyone.
Now I would like to ask Fairuz Tafannum to speak against the motion, and she belongs to Chattogram Cantonment Public College.
Standing in a country where people consider it unsuccessful to be a doctor in the rural areas, wouldn't it be absurd to think only money can make them stay? Thank you, honorable moderator, for giving me a chance to speak up in today's argument. First of all, how miserable have we been hearing pre-made rebuttals that our opponents gave us that we never talked about in the very first place? We never talked about that our alternative is to make people skilled. Second of all, they've also talked about how they're gonna send the people then established industries. What are these people gonna do in the time frame? What are these people do in meantime? Are these people gonna be unskilled? Now coming to my main points, honorable moderator, look at how 34% of our population is moving to urban areas every single year. Why do these people move in the very first place? Let's come from the grassroots level. Honorable Speaker, we believe nobody ever wants to live in such a place where the medical facility rate is literally 14%, only 22.4% of the schools are well developed, and the job opportunity rate is literally 4%. Now, honorable moderator, look at how 68% of the people that actually move from the rural areas to the urban areas move with the perspective that they will get better opportunities, better facilities, and better lifestyle so that they can prosper in future. Honorable moderator, focus on how my first speaker has already talked about from our first spectrum was that how rural areas lack infrastructure in the very first place, and that lack of infrastructure creates question in the sustainability that people are actually going to stay there for a long period or not, which goes off to our second spectrum, which says, now if we look into whatever the rural area infrastructures have to offer, we see those particular infrastructure not getting any administration, neither any utilization. Because why? All the skilled doctors, all the skilled manpowers, all the skilled teachers are constantly moving to the urban areas because they believe the urban areas has more for them to offer than that of rural areas, which is less developed. Now, coming to a lively example, we see in Dighinala High School, out of 21 teachers, only 4 of them are well qualified and well taught. So in that situation, what we see when the people are actually leaving the urban areas, the situation of the rural areas are degrading every single day. And why do these people are living in the very first place? Why? Because they have three main objectives. First, they want to secure their job. Second one, they want better facilities. Third of all, they want better standard of living. Honorable moderator, look at how these three objectives can never be met in staying in the rural areas. Why? Because the rural area itself is not developed with its infrastructures and with its everything. Now, coming to my second spectrum, which is I'll be showing you why it is not feasible for the government to give initiative from the personal perspective. Now, honorable moderator, look at how when we see a person go from a very struggling, then going to the cities and getting a job, getting stable there, he will not agree with the government to actually take this initiative in the first place. Why? First of all, he had secured his job, life, future, everything there. Second of all, is that he knows how that particular rural area actually is. He knows how the job sectors are actually not flourished there. He knows that the opportunities are actually not even there. So that's why when he gets such sort of initiative, he will never take it, because he does not want to go back to the place where he left willingly, honorable moderator. Honorable moderator, look at how in this case we believe that this creates a sustainability problem, that people, even if in their best case people are actually going out there, there's no insurity they're actually gonna stay there, because they will not meet their demand, facilities and what not, honorable moderator. Now coming to my second layer of spectrum, which is lower class living standard. Why do they migrate in the very first place? Because they are in a vulnerable situation, and when they do get to the cities and get a proper job, when an unknown person out of nowhere comes and says, I will pay you if you can go back to where you came from, he will think it's absurd. Why? Because he had to give his blood, sweat and tears to come to this place where he has. And we believe working in this industry is much more efficient, sustainable than working in as a farmer, which is literally gonna be, which does not have any sustainability. Honorable Speaker, look at how if their initiative is actually occurring, what kind of situation do we get? We get loophole tendency and exploit mindsets. What do we mean by exploit mindsets in the first place? Because I've already explained the loophole tendency. What do we get is exploit mindset. In this case, we have people in a society who does not even care what sort of initiative government take. They only care about money, and there's no ensurety they're going to use that money the right place. Now, what I'll be providing you is a smarter policy and alternative. Honorable moderator, look at how today we want to focus on indiscriminate development in the rural areas and create a better environment for the infrastructural development. What will occur in this case is that if we move these centralized infrastructure, can I have 15 seconds more? What we will see is that when the infrastructures move, the people will move with the infrastructures. The government does not even have to provide the money to move in the very first place. What will occur is that the people are gonna move by themselves. The government does not even have to pay them. So in our world, we believe we give you a more inherent solution that is gonna be more sustainable, efficient and more good. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, everyone.
Now, the speaker or debater from Cantonment English School and College is Shashwato Bishwash, and I would like to request him to speak for the motion.
Humble gratitude to the honorable moderator for letting me speak at this debate. First of all, my opposition bench has already denied the budget allocation that my first speaker has already mentioned, where we have already said 3 lakh taka for each person of each family. So over here you have mentioned about 20,000 to 23,000 of taka, where we have already mentioned our own budget in this regard. Secondly, they are telling about people leaving the villages and accumulating in the urbans. This is the main thing that we are going to mention, where we are already saying that the urbans are getting very populated, overpopulated, which is the thing that the total globe is concerned about. And over here, when they are talking about indiscriminate and structural development of the rural areas, just, my honorable moderator, just see, when the people living in the slums, the people who are living in the slums and the people who are derived of their basic needs and living in the cities and coming from the villages, when they are being derived from their when they are being deprived from their basic needs that they need in the cities, they will never prefer. My opposition bench first speaker has mentioned that our cities are very much facilitated, are very much developed. But the thing that you are saying, that the village people are coming to the cities and they're living in a miserable condition, and over here those people would never prefer this environment of the city over their standard of life. And when my government will provide them with this payment, then they would obviously prefer this payment to improve their life standard. And besides, when they will be inspired to improve this life standard, they will move to the rural areas. And the structural development you are talking about here, when they will bring this experience of the urban life into the rural areas, then this is the thing we are telling over here. Then those people will also contribute, will also help in the development, in the infrastructural development of the villages. And over here you have told again and again that yeah, the rural people are moving to the urban areas, and this is the thing we have also mentioned, which is the cause of overpopulation in the urbans. And this is not only affecting the condition of the urbans, but also the condition of villages, where people's standard of living, people's development, and obviously the country's development is being hampered over here. And over here, when again you were saying about infrastructural development, just see. Over here, when the families would relocate them in the rural areas, a high number of youths will be also moving to the rural areas, and they like to take challenges. And over here, when the youths will be inspired to start with new entrepreneurship businesses or new startups, then this is also bringing the new point of urban view into the villages, where entrepreneurship and new startups are also getting promoted. And over here, then not only the infrastructural development of the cities, but also any development in the point of view of these villages will be also developed. And over here, out of this entrepreneurship, the women will be also inspired to develop with their businesses, to start up with their entrepreneurship. And over here, the women empowerment progress will also be promoted in the villages when the people will move from the urban conditions to the villages. And we can obviously see Japan, Zoom towns in USA, Albania in Switzerland, Precisi in Italy is following this similar model. And over here, they have already said that the thing that, yeah, rural people need infrastructural development. But are they getting that when they're moving in urbans? And you have, obviously, you are on your own, you have also said that they are leading a very miserable life. So, to improve their life standard, if the government provides with them some payments, with some budget, then obviously the people would start in developing their lifestyles. And over here, when you're telling that the people would just rub to the money from the government and just live over there, my first speaker has already mentioned about a policy where if the people are moving from the villages, then obviously they will be ensured, they will be insisted so that they return this money to the government. And secondly, after a long time being, like 5 to 10 years, they will never want to do that because that's their comfort zone. And when they will set a startup in that particular area, then it is a common incentive of human, then they will never prefer to move out. May I get 15 seconds more?
Okay.
Then they will
Just
never
15.
prefer moving out of that comfort zone again and just settle in the urbans, which will also cause them in facing complexities in finding livelihood. And over here, we have already said that if you allocate a budget, and if you allocate the budget, then this will obviously helpful in development of people's standard of life. Thank you, my honorable speaker.
Now, I would like to ask Abrar Shahid from Chattogram Cantonment Public College to speak against the motion.
Standing in a country where 4 lakh people migrates to Dhaka for better living and economic stability, it is principally unjustified to expose them again to the vulnerable condition they were in rural areas where there were no particular facilities. Thank you, Honorable Moderator, for giving me the floor. Honorable Moderator, I think there is a basic conception of the stand that we provided in this whole debate. Honorable Moderator, we have no problem with relocation. We have no problem with decentralization stuff. What we are offering, that we are offering a smarter alternative to the actually what the alternative that the proposition bench is providing. We are offering a better alternative, that we will rather spend this money on this sector, which is basically indiscriminate development in rural area, and to spend money to create environment for infrastructural development, so that the money that you are going to spend in those particular people just to shift in different type of rural area, this money can actually can be spent more in such kind of indiscriminate development, which will rather in last case, in long term benefit, will rather hook the people to actually shift to that particular rural area. Honorable Moderator, taking the worst case, we believe that in the worst case, we believe the money won't even reach the people. How, Honorable Moderator, even if the government gives money, there exists a particular number of untransparent and corrupted people in the government officials right now. So the fact is that when you're even providing the money, we saw that even they will actually take the money and fill their pocket eventually. What happened to the pension scheme right now, where we saw that 71% of the people or the government employee, when they were taking the money of their pension, had to give bribes or has to face difficulties. Honorable Moderator, we believe it creates a new money making scheme for those corrupted employees. Honorable Moderator, if we take their best case scenario, which is that the people getting money and actually they are even moving out to the rural areas, we believe it is not sustainable. How, Honorable Moderator? First thing first, when those people are actually getting some money and actually going to that rural area, they don't have economic stability at that particular frame. They do not have employment opportunity, because their solution was to actually put the people at that particular rural area and to develop the infrastructure later on. What will the people do in that particular time frame when there is no particular infrastructure? So fact is, they will just burn down the money that you gave in 6 to 7 months, and they will just shift again to Dhaka. And they also propose that they are gonna take the whole money back from the people. Honorable Moderator, when you can't ensure taxes from everyone in this country, how will you even ensure that you are getting that particular money back, or you are getting that refund from the people shifting to Dhaka? Honorable Moderator, we believe they are living in a utopian world. Even if you have a basic calculation in math, even if you move 30,000 families and if you even give 3 lakh taka to them, it actually costs 90 billion taka. Honorable Moderator, it can be spent in different type of indiscriminate development. We believe such as different type of indiscriminate development like Mishara economic zone, Anwar economic zone, where people will eventually, where we are just moving the centralized offices, where we are actually moving the industries, and people will ultimately hook up in that particular area. Honorable Moderator, moving on to the basic argument and why we believe their policy is not sustainable, why we believe our one is sustainable. First of all, their policy is basically creating an economic burden, which creates a major which is like they are having a major economic burden, because your 90 billion taka is already wasted on people just to move at that particular rural area, and ultimately after 6 to 7 months they are just gonna shift to Dhaka or the central capital itself. Not only the Honorable Moderator, the fact is that why our alternative is much more sustainable. Our alternative is much more sustainable because the main incentive of the rural people to shift to Dhaka was to have a proper life standard, was to have an employment opportunity, was to have to gain economic stability. When at the first place I am spending money to actually develop the whole rural area indiscriminately, when I am establishing different type of workplaces, the fact is that I am ensuring employment opportunity, I am ensuring economic stability, and thirdly, Honorable Moderator, I am ensuring a proper and improvised life standard and facility. We saw how different type of housing actually even created in its own in the Mirishara economic zone. The government did have to focus on creating housing, creating shops, creating life facilities. We believe it will be created automatically when you just shift the central offices to the rural areas. Honorable Moderator, that's what is the end result of the whole debate. What we saw in this whole debate, we saw that the proposition, for the motion team proposed that they will actually put a scheme to actually put people in different type of places of the country, and after that they will actually develop different type of infrastructure. We believe it is principally wrong for the economy. We believe it will not eventually work out from the personal perspective and the economical perspective of the country, because right now the scheme they are actually proposing is something like something like Honorable Moderator, is something like a money making scheme. Not only the Honorable Moderator, when you are actually providing money to a particular group of people living in Dhaka, it will create more tendency for the people to live in the capital city. How, Honorable Moderator? At the first place, when suppose I'm a rural area, I'm people from rural area. When I heard a news that the government is providing money to the urban area people, can I take 15 cents more? To the urban area people to move out throughout the world, to move toward the rural area, I got the incentive to actually basically shift to Dhaka, get 3 lakhs Dhaka and shift to Tangail rather after that. that. So we believe it is principally wrong, economically wrong, and wrong from the personal scale, even in the best and worst case scenario. So that's why we proudly oppose this motion. Thank you, Honorable Moderator. Thank you.
Well, now we're in rebuttal phase, and in the rebuttal phase, I would like to ask Shashwat Bishwash to speak for the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, for aiding with the floor once again. First of all, again, my third speaker of the opposition bench said that there will be corruption sort of things in the policy that we have mentioned over here. First of all, the thing you were saying to allocate some budget for the infrastructural development or indiscriminate development in the villages. Won't there be any corruption? Won't there the responsible people for the development in the villages? Won't they be corrupted? Can't they just drop the money and just run and just keep them instead of involving in development? And over here, you are again and again saying that the finance that we have mentioned over here will just go in vain. But the policy that have you also proposed, where you are saying indiscriminate development or complete revolution of the village, won't there be any sort of finance needed? And over here, when we are already talking about the people taking the payment from the government and moving to the villages, then just imagine, people are the soul of a country, where people would just involve in automatic development of the villages, of the village areas. So the rural areas will be automatically developed when the people will move to the villages. And to make people do this act, this is the mentioned finance, this is the mentioned thing that will inspire people to move to the villages. And payment is the thing that will push him or her, that will push their families to move to the villages. That I have already, and my team has already mentioned. Over here, you have already talked about only future development, where it is a state where if I propose finance to the families, then the families would obviously respond in an immediate manner when they are already leading a miserable life condition in the slums, in the peripheral areas of the cities, where they're already being deprived of their needs, of their basic needs. So if I propose the payment, then the families would obviously be instantly responsive to take this payment and make it 15 seconds.
Oh, just
to
15.
take this payment and move to the villages, and this will ensure the infrastructural development that they are proposing. Thank you, my honorable moderator. Thank you, everybody.
Now, may I ask Abrar Shahid to speak against the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, for giving the floor again. Honorable Moderator, I think there is a basic misconception on the fact of how indiscriminate development basically works out. Indiscriminate development basically works out, or according to our stand, is that we are not actually providing or creating industries or buildings and stuff like that. The fact is we are creating the opportunities. Like we are creating the transportation part, or we are creating the port link to port, or link to airport, or link to seaport, which we saw in case of Mirshorai economic zone. The rest particular thing will be done by different private sectors, which we saw, like Boshundhara, Berger, different companies set up different type of industries at that particular economic zone. What will happen? What will happen is, at that particular area, there will be a new scope of employment opportunities, which will eventually result in the better life standard, and it will eventually hook up people to stay in that particular area. Honorable Moderator, the fact is they talked about Japan a lot more. We believe the educated people of Japan shifted to rural area because at the first place they ensured proper infrastructure, proper life facilities, and not only the proper employment of those educated Japanese people in that particular rural area of Japan. Not only that, Honorable Moderator, the fact is lastly they asked about the corruption issue. The fact is, Honorable Moderator, setting up an economic zone is actually not actually like that corrupted as like you are actually giving pension scheme, because you have to actually give that particular money to 1 by 1 or to 1:1 people, where in our case you are actually hiring a contractor at the first place. Honorable Speaker, what we show in this whole debate, they actually talked about that if they give money to the slum area people or the slum family, they will actually agree, they will have an agreement, and they will ultimately shift out to the rural area. Why it doesn't actually principally works out, Honorable Moderator? The fact is that these slum area peoples actually came from rural area, just have economic stability which they didn't have in the rural area. They were in the vulnerable condition when they were in rural areas. The fact is that when you are actually putting their money again to actually go back to the rural area, they will think that I won't have any job opportunities. I will totally depend on agriculture, which is not even a secure job. That's why we believe, even though from the best case or the worst case, their argument didn't stand in any perspective from country's economy or personal perspective. That's why we believe and proudly opposing the motion. Thank you, Honorable Moderator. Thank you.
Well, from this debate, we have got a lot of insightful comments that government should offer payments to people so that they move out of cities and settle in the rural areas. Both the teams have spoken nicely, and there were arguments, counter arguments, and some have said that if the government give money to the people or officers, there will be more corruption or there will be some problems. And the opponent said that, well, if the money is given or if the opportunities are increased, there will be wonderful scope or say atmosphere. Well, both of the teams have spoken or done so well. I'm really impressed. And very shortly, within a couple of minutes, we are having our results. And the salient point is what I believe. Our Honorable Prime Minister has also increased a lot of facilities in the countryside of late. And these facilities are changing the complexion of the rural areas. And we'll have wonderful villages and we will have Golden Bengal as dreamt by our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And thank you so much for your insightful, very convincing arguments and counter-arguments. And keep it up, and I hope these debaters will make wonderful citizens who will contribute significantly to building our Golden Bengal. Both the teams or the team members are waiting with their throbbing heart to get the results. And adjudicators have judged impartially, without any bias towards any team. And the winner of today's debate is Cantonment English School and College. So congratulations. And the best speaker is Shashoto Bishwas. So I would like to thank both the teams, the winning and the losing teams, and I hope through this you will make better citizens, better assets of the country. Thank you so much.